Hello, and welcome to Postcards from a Soul and Her Human. I am the human, Gina, as always. Um, Welcome and thank you for joining me on this incredible journey that I'm on. And uh, my fascination with what's happening all around me is just a constant now. I'm in such awe of this incredible life that I'm living that I often have to stop and just take a deep breath and realize that that I am quite literally living in a fairy tale, and it's I don't know how else to put it. It is so magnificent and magical, and the fact that I am on this microphone talking to you, which was something I would have never thought to do, and how I was led to do this, and it's just extraordinary that I've been talking about all of this for 2 years now, and now it's coming to the point where everything that I've been discussing, all the things I have learned, are culminating into one fine point, one moment that is going to change my entire life. And, sometimes I sit and wonder, how much I should talk about. And it's amazing how differently I feel now than I did even a month ago when I started to share, actually 2 months ago, when I started to share details of my journey, the foretold details of my journey. I was very, very cautious about that for a long time. And I believe that I'm in a place and a time where I'm meant to talk about it. And I believe that I've been given extra guidance recently to make me more comfortable in doing that. So I was sitting having my tea this morning and looking out my back door, thinking about how amazing this all feels and how extraordinary all this really is, and how this knowing in my body that has developed, and knowing is not believing. It is just it is a feeling. It's it's an element of my being. It is no longer a something that I'm reaching for or something that I have to distrust. Because I would always think that it must be your ego wanting something, and that therefore you're manufacturing what you think is going to happen or what you think you know. And I'm so far past that now. It's just so funny when it comes up. It's almost like it's such a brief moment, and it feels so foreign now. Where before it was part of who I am. That distrust of my own thoughts and feelings, where I used to always have to examine and never knew for sure if my examination was even authentic because of the triggers or the lenses that I saw my life through, the conditioning, the beliefs, mostly about myself. How we can't know ourselves until we clear all that out of the way. And then we begin to trust. And once that trust is established, and this is the most fascinating thing for me as a witness of what I've gone through over the last 3 years, once it's established, it is unshakable. I can't even, and I'm going to talk about something that is going to be a product of this trust. And I don't know anything. And this is the most beautiful part of this, is that I've been guided in many ways. And I think I mentioned this before, that when something happens in my life externally and it brings up a memory or a resonation, which is really the only way to put it, it's the only accurate way to state what happens. This is something stored in my psyche or my mind that is dormant. It isn't needed. And then when something triggers it, an ignition, which is another word that I've come to really appreciate because I was ignited to awaken. But once this ignition happens, it brings back up this resonating memory or this impression. And honestly, memory doesn't sound like the right word. It's like it's almost like a breeze that blew into my body that found a place and settled in. And when it was time for this breeze to blow out again, it was ignited by or triggered by something in the external world. And then that resonation, that breeze comes up into my awareness again as a memory or an impression. And this has been happening to me for the last few months quite frequently. And for a while, I had to examine, am I manufacturing an idea from a memory that I want to recall because it gives me an idea that something might happen that I want to happen. And so that would be something manufactured by my mind or my ego. But I've come to realize this is so different. This is so different. If I sit in quiet and I allow this to happen, and when it does happen, I acknowledge it for what it is, it becomes what I know. And this is another gift of this shift into this dimensional reality that I have been guided through, or I should say, energetically transformed into. I don't really know how to put that correctly, but this dimensional shift that I went through changed my body on a molecular level. And it changed my ability to think in broad terms and to understand things that are not available for understanding to the mind. It's not in any book. It's not in any and even if I did read it, I wouldn't understand it. It would go right over my head because it is not a resonant it's not resonant intelligence. And again, this isn't knowledge either. It's intelligence. It's something that you know. And I'll always credit the team of souls around me, my soul tribe, and the other souls around me who are assisting with this journey for this information, for this knowing. It is not me, the human being. It is me being open, this intuitive channel to source consciousness and to whatever intelligence is meant for me at this time. And this is how everything has come to me in the last 3 years. The books that I've been serendipitously guided to have been there at that time with a purpose to open my mind, my body, my energy to something so much greater and broader than what's in front of my face in this physical world. And this is how knowing comes into my body. And I still have moments here and there where I wonder, am I imagining this? And I think that's normal. I'm a human being. And there's always that polarity there. And our lives are all about polarity, about two opposites and coming together to form a perspective or an experience. You have to have an opposing energy in order to have an interaction. It can't just all be the same. So my mind will question and my body will just say, it's cool. You're fine. Go back to your lunch break. It's just extraordinary to feel. And so this knowing in my body has allowed me to embrace what is happening without doubting it because I don't know anything for sure. And I talked about this in the last episode where I revealed something that I never talked about before. I think I've only told my daughter about, was the dream that I had 3.5 years ago about, well, I'll just call it 7:30, pull the trigger. I detailed it in the last episode, and I think maybe the one before is when I first talked about it. I felt a prophetic dream, a predictive dream of something that was going to happen in my life, but I didn't know when it was going to happen. And I had to trust that. At first, I knew it had meaning. I didn't really know anything else. I knew I'd never had a dream like this that was so clear, so lucid, so that stuck with me. I mean, I wrote it down the next morning, but I remember it. I always remember it. It always comes back into the resonation of what I'm going through. It's like a reminder that don't forget 7:30, pull the trigger. And I would think about it often, and I'm like, why am I even? And I even went back. I think I mentioned I went back to my book that I'm working on, and I made sure it was in there because it happened 6 months before. This dream I had was 6 months before I started documenting my journey. It was 6 months before my ex-husband moved out of my house that I had this dream. So I said before, I believe this dream was meant to tell me in my darkest moments, because that was the very darkest of my times on this earth so far, that there is something coming for you in the future. You just have to have faith. And when it comes, you need to pull the trigger. So I just, that that memory of that dream has never left me. And I've often wondered, 3 years have passed since I had that dream, 3 7:30s. And July 30th the date July 30th have passed 3 times since I had that dream. And now when I first talked about this a couple of episodes ago, we were in June or in July, the last 2 episodes, and I was opining about this again and pondering, would this be the year for 7:30? And I just had a feeling. I knew in my body. And this is something that I'm learning to trust. And because I'm learning to trust it, I think I'm being encouraged more and more to speak what I know instead of tempering it with, well, maybe not. Or I could be wrong, because my brain doesn't want me to look silly. And I think that that's, again, a normal human feeling about something so fantastic, so out of this world. Because I'm a left right brain person. I have a very powerful left brain. I am very logical and pragmatic. And at the same time, I've always had this ethereal side, this cosmic knowing in my body, where I can reason both hemispheres. With both hemispheres of my brain, I can think. And I think it's a gift that I was given for this very purpose, so I can transition from the human pragmatist to the spiritual, ethereal, mystic, witch, or person, whatever you want to call this other side of me, this being that is connected to the earth and the cosmos. And I understand this as a part of my design, so I could have this incredible transition or transmutation, transformation in one lifetime, where my brain wouldn't keep me from understanding what was happening to me. It's just extraordinary. And so I have to say what I believe and what I feel to be true. I can't really hide from that anymore, because in doing so, and I was warned about this, not to let my ego get in the way, I am hindering this incredible unfolding of my destiny. And I'm hindering my ability, which is part of my purpose, to share all of it. I was told very early on that I would talk about my story in raw and unfiltered terms, and that I was to put my ego on the back shelf because I would need to be open in every way. And I've talked about every element of my life, from the most deepest, darkest moments, my sexuality, my relationships, my entire awakening in my darkness, everything. And I never had a problem doing any of that. It felt right. And because I knew it was part of what I meant to be doing. And this is a whole nother aspect of that, another phase of that. And this phase could not have happened until I went through the process. And I'll talk about the process again. I could write a whole book about the process of going through this transformation that could not have been circumvented. I could not have gotten to this place where I am right now, where I trust my body and my heart, and my mind trust my body and my heart. And I don't have to doubt anymore that what I'm experiencing isn't real, that I'm imagining it because I want, on some deep level, I'm desperate for something outside of the norm. So I could not have gotten here to this place of absolute trust in my ethereal connection, in the connection to source consciousness, which I am but a spark of. We are all a spark of source consciousness. We all came from Mother Consciousness, who I refer to as Sophia, who is the God, goddess, creator. And that's what I believe from what I know. Religion has never meant anything to me. Why the institution of marriage has never meant anything to me. Why government doesn't make sense. I mean, there's so much that and of course, throughout my life, I didn't really express too much because I had no basis for it. I didn't know anything. It's just what I knew. So as I became more free of what I've learned is referred to as the 3D construct, the matrix of the 3D, the third dimensional world. And this is a world that was created by Source, by us, who were created by Source as a training ground. So if you look down on the earth and you see it encapsulated into a sphere, And then the earth is a sphere. This is all sacred geometry, which I don't understand enough with my brain to talk about intelligently. Something that I know with my body is that if you look at the earth from outer space, it's a sphere that is surrounded by a sphere of atmosphere. That sounds oddly Swedish. A sphere, S-P-H, sphere. I drooled while I was doing that, sorry. That is encapsulated in an atmosphere, which is also a circle. And within that atmosphere is what's referred to by the cosmos and I know in my body as the 3D construct. And this is the third dimensional reality that I'm no longer a part of. And I have transferred into or transmutated or transformed into the 5D dimension, which is out of, no longer in the 3-dimensional or the 3D matrix. And the 3D matrix was designed by all of us, by the gods and goddesses or whomever, specifically I don't know, for us to come to this, excuse me, this incredible earth plane as a soul, to get into these body suits and to have these transactional and interactional relationships and experiences in order to learn. And we design this realm or this matrix that we're in. And I keep thinking of the movie The Matrix, which I'm actually have on in my Netflix to watch tonight. Is I don't know about the technical accuracy, but it's absolutely how this works. Is that we're unaware that we belong in a dimension that is so far outside this earthly body that we're in, but we're here in this earthly body to have an experience, to learn lessons and to see ourselves from different perspectives. That's what the soul is doing here. And we design the experiences that we're having. And we design what is called I refer to as the haunted forest, that we have to navigate through like a labyrinth in order to get to the other side and then look back at it in the lifetime that we're meant to. It doesn't happen in every lifetime. For me, from what I understand, I've had many, many, many lifetimes here. And this is the lifetime I was meant to awaken, to realize what I was doing here, to look back and see everything that I went through as an exercise in my evolution, and then to integrate it into my body, which is what I've been doing the last 3 years. And then to use that, and then at energy or that ignition or that graduation is what transformed my energy to the 5th dimension. And I describe this as coming on an energetic cycle. It's all connected to the planets and the stars, the cosmos, the weather, everything, the earth, all of it is working together to create these energetic cycles that sweep out old dimensional energy and in the new dimensional energy, which literally expands and elevates or ascends us and this earth. So I am now out of this 3-dimensional matrix, the 3D matrix. And that is a place where you can't see through the ceiling, kind of like in the movie, oh my God, I'm not going to remember it. Where she has to, I'm not going to remember it. I don't want to waste your time thinking about it. Where where she figures out that she's in a simulation, and she sees that the sky is actually an illusion because she shoots her arrow through it, and then she learns that she's in a game. I mean, that's basically what happens. Is we come to a time in that specified lifetime where we understand, where we figure out, oh my gosh, I'm in a game. I'm in an assimilation. This isn't real. And once you get that perspective, and that is the third eye activation, which allows you to see that, the third eye remains dormant, and it has to until that time. Because if you were seeing all these things with no concept or no ability to integrate it or to assimilate it, you wouldn't be able to understand it. You'd go insane. And honestly, I think that that's a real thing. But my point is you don't see this until you're ready. And then the third eye is awakened or activated. And that's through the pineal gland, the crystal, which is a crystal rock in our pineal gland that gets activated, and the energy from that crystal. And crystals hold energy. I mean, we use crystal in a quartz watch. There's a piece of quartz in it that runs the watch. So that crystal in the pineal gland gets activated by this energy in the body that changes, this cycle of energy that comes in and reinforms the molecular structure of the body to change. And from what I understand, my body is no longer carbon-based. It is crystalline-based, which is a silicon base instead of carbon. I don't really know technically much more than that, but that this change in my energetic body triggers this ignition of this crystal, which triggers the third eye to open. And then I'm able to see with the broad perspective that's needed what is happening to me. And it's such an extraordinary thing. And I don't want to go off too long talking about that, but that's what's happened. And so the 3D matrix is meant to be agitating. It's meant to agitate the demons that we brought with us. It's meant for our dragons to be activated. So when you talk about polarity, when we come into the earth plane, we look for polarity. We are energetically designed to attract polarity. So we have to attract what's opposite to us in order to have these interactions and these relationships. And it's so extraordinary. And there's polarity in our bodies, positive and negative, like a battery. And it's so important to know about this polarity in an intimate relationship, because they play an important role, which is what I'm learning through tantric sex. There's so much to know here. There's so much going on. And when we're lost in the 3D matrix, and when I say lost, I don't mean lost, it's not the right word. When we're busy in the 3D matrix, because it's no accident that we're there, we are evolving our soul through learning about ourselves from different perspectives. So we're basically lost, what I refer to as in a haunted forest. And I lived my haunted forest for 58 years before I went into detox, or the debrief period, or the de-brainwashing period, where my third eye was activated and my energy started to be transformed. Transmuted. And during that time, I was given access to all kinds of material, which I've talked about over and over: the Gene Keys, Golden Path, Human Design, and the books from the Pleiadian channelings. All of these things came during this period to teach me what I was going through, so I could learn to accept and embrace, and then with intention conduct my life as this transformed being. There's so much beautiful orchestration going on here. And when I look back, it's so easy to see how beautifully elegant it all is. Even the most desperate, damaged, horrific parts of my life, the abuse that I endured, the aloneness that I never felt lonely, which is another weird thing. Again, part of my design. The dark forest that I lived in, and I didn't know I was in a dark forest. I thought this was what my life was going to be, that I would have left my last relationship, which was absolutely devastating in ways that are biblical, to be with someone for nearly 25 years who tells you they don't feel anything. That's pretty epic. And then within 3 years, and I can say within 3 years, that's 3 years ago it started, but literally was within 7 months that I began to see the purpose of all of it. And in my body, as my body was being transformed, literally at a molecular structure, and I described the symptoms that I underwent, all of it, every bit of it, I described on this microphone and in my work, my articles, and now in my book. It's all had a purpose. Every bit of it I was meant to share. So now I'm sitting at this place 3 years later, and I'm having this incredible knowing that what I'm experiencing is not manufactured by my mind. This is a gift of the fifth dimension. The fifth dimension is not another place. I haven't left planet Earth. I'm still here. It is just a different dimensional consciousness. It is awareness that I am in a place that I'm meant to be, and that I've gone through this matrix, this game, this assimilation, and I was meant to come out of it and be debriefed, and then to understand that I was an agent and I was having an experience. I'm a double agent basically in this world. I went deep undercover, and I had to be pulled out and reminded that I wasn't a three-dimensional being anymore, that I am this five-dimensional being, and that I'm able to now I have access to this source consciousness that in the 3D matrix I couldn't have had access to. It would have ruined the game, the experience. So now I'm in the 5D, which I understand, and it's not another place. It's just it's a level of consciousness. And in this level of consciousness, I no longer have the trials and tribulations of the 3D me. I don't doubt everything. I don't fear anything. I'm not delusioned by life anymore. I'm sorry, delusioned is a good word, but disillusioned is what I meant to say. I know exactly why I'm here and what I'm doing. And because of that, I can trust what I know in my body, even though there is no outward reason for me to believe it. And again, this supersedes the brain. It is not a belief, it is a knowing. It is my solar plexus, which is my channel to the earth, to the ethereal realm, to source consciousness that informs my body on an energetic level. My brain is not really involved. The job of my brain is to accept and to embrace. And that really is the only trick that's still necessary after this transformation. But it only takes a matter of time because the body is so much more powerful now than the brain, than the ego. And everything falls into alignment. And this is what I was talking about when I spoke about co-creation, the spontaneous knowing I had about co-creation, and how I just spontaneously know things. Like what co-creation is, and how it has nothing to do with what I believed in the beginning, which is that we can manifest our dreams. We can't manifest our dreams until we leave the 3D matrix. And that's just the way it is. And I don't mean to crush anybody's dreams. I just want to make that clear as an experiencer of this, because we're not meant to be able to create our wildest dreams in the 3D matrix because we ourselves are not conditioned for it. This is where we self-sabotage or we destroy good things in our lives because we don't think we deserve them. That is why we can't call them into our lives, because the resonation is not in our body for it. The frequency in which that dream of yours, which is beautiful and clear and loving and light, doesn't exist in the 3D matrix. It is a radio station that is playing classical music, and your radio only gets hard rock and roll. You have to get a new radio, and you don't get that new radio until you leave the 3D matrix. It's part of your standard issued equipment once you leave. Now I don't get the rock and roll station anymore, or the static station that doesn't play anything, which is where my life lived, where I lived before. Now I have a radio that only tunes into the higher frequencies. And those are the frequencies that are now in my body, so they resonate. It's all about resonation, everything. About frequency, the energy, the way your body vibrates. And when you're in the 3D matrix, your vibration is low and slow. And it's meant to be. It slows everything down. And I said this before in the movie Epic that I watched with my granddaughter. It's a Disney movie, or maybe not Disney. It's an animated movie. And I had trouble describing this, but I think I can do a better job now. Where if you've seen the movie, it's about a scientist or an archaeologist, or I'm not sure what he is, but he believes that there is another species of life on Earth that we can't see because it's in another dimension. And he doesn't vocalize that, but that's basically what he's doing. And he has all this equipment to try to detect it. He has cameras up in the forest, and he's trying to see all these things. And when they show the human being, the man's perspective of these other dimensional beings, they appear to flicker in and out of our visibility because they're vibrating so high. They only barely touch our frequency. So because they're vibrating so high, or they're like the flapping wings of a hummingbird, we can't see them. They're right there, but they're in a different dimension, and it's a vibrating, a dimension that's vibrating so much higher than ours, we cannot detect it. Just like a sound that we can't hear because it's on a frequency that our ears are not tuned into. But what I didn't mention that I want to mention to illustrate this further is when the higher frequency or the higher dimensional beings see the human, we appear to be moving in slow motion because our frequency or our vibration is so much slower. So to them, we are moving in slow motion. It is so amazing to see, and then for me to be able to contextualize from what I saw, which is by no mistake, what this experience is. So they refer to humans as stompers because humans carelessly stomp through the world, not understanding what they're stepping on because they're too dense, literally. They're too physically dense because the lower the vibration, the denser the matter. That's why we can have physical bodies that stay on the ground in this gravity or beyond gravity because we're in a sphere of an atmosphere that supports that. So this is also fascinating, but how clear it all is to me now. And this is another gift of the fifth dimensional consciousness. It's just the ability to see everything as it is and not doubt it and know without the need of the brain agreeing. And the brain is only here for a specific purpose, is to navigate the physical world. It's not here to understand all this broad cosmic stuff. So I'm no longer in the 3D matrix. I'm in this 5D energy or dimensional consciousness. And therefore, I have access to this incredible broad perspective of life on Earth, life in the cosmos, existence of other species of life all through the galaxies. Come on now. I'm not the only one that knows that. And in this access to higher consciousness, I guess is the only way to put it, and I went a long way around the block to get back here, is just that so I can trust what I know. And I talked about in the last episode and the one before this dream that I had. And I'll briefly go over it again in case this is the first episode you're listening to, is I had a dream 3.5 years ago on January 9th, 2021, where I was at a party or an event, and I was with my ex-husband at the time because we were divorced at that time. He was just still living in my house, and his entire family at an event, a wedding or something. And it was very busy, lots of people. I was sitting at a table, and I became aware that no one was wearing masks. Now, this was deep into COVID-19. And I was petrified of COVID at the time. I was in I was in absolute energetic turmoil. This was the darkest period of my entire life. The 6 months after I was legally divorced, between that divorce and when my ex-husband finally left my home, which is a whole nother story, which is also in my episodes. And if you want to know about it, it's The Catalyst. It's one of my earlier episodes. The darkest 6 months of my life, I had this dream. I woke up in the morning and I realized that I was at this party with my ex-husband and his family. No one was wearing a mask. I became very afraid, and I got up to leave, and I tried to leave, and I couldn't get through the people. And a young boy ran by me laughing and playing, and I was so afraid for his health. I'm like, what are you doing? Oh my gosh, I have to get out of here. And then as I was nearing the exit, somebody bumped into me and knocked me down and fell on top of me. I actually looked back at my notes after I did the last episode, and I more detail than I had last time. He fell on top of me, and I was like, what is going on? I got him off of me, and I stood up and turned to him, and it was this huge man in a flannel shirt. I'm like, first of all, why are you in a flannel shirt? We're at a wedding, something like that. And I said to him, I yelled at him, what are you doing? What is this? Something like that. And I wrote it down. I forgot what I wrote. Something like that. And he said to me, I can't tell you what, but I can tell you when. 7:30, pull the trigger. And I woke up. That was a dream I had 3.5 years ago. And that dream has kept coming back and forth into my awareness. And I know I was meant to remember it. And of course, when July 30th rolls around, I'm always like, oh, I wonder if this is the year something I'm going to need to pull the trigger on. I don't know. Is it going to be an opportunity? What's it going to be? And I knew there was no mistake that I talked about it, because in this new resonant energy, this fifth dimensional energy, I am to trust what I know. And I talked about this dream for the first time in the last episode and the one before. And I know I was meant to, because I was meant to talk about it before July 30th. And here's why. This is just so extraordinary. I'm still marveling at all of it, and I can't, it's just so amazing how extraordinary everything is. Okay, so I woke up on the morning of July 30th, which today's August 3rd, just for some perspective. Today's August 3rd, 2024. So on July 30th, I woke up and I really didn't expect anything. I was aware it was July 30th, like I am every year. And I didn't really expect anything. And I'm like, you know what? I have to remain open. I've learned to let go of all expectations or outcomes. It's the only way to live. And in this energy, I really can't get attached to anything. I just am too aware how broad the opportunity or the possibilities are. And I don't want to limit them by my mind wanting something particular or specific, because it may be too small. So I just learned to let all that go. And I'm like, if something doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. If I look a little foolish, who cares? It's what I felt. It's what I knew. So I wake up on the 30th and I go down to my phone. I plug it in the morning. I don't keep it in my bedroom. I don't like to have my phone near me as much as possible, because of the electromagnetic field around my phone, which is disruptive to the electromagnetic field around my body. And oh my God, there's a whole other thing there. But anyway, I went downstairs to plug in my phone and to check my messages. And as I do every morning, I check my social media. I have 3 accounts. 2 are social, 1's professional. And when I checked the third one, the professional one, I had an invitation to connect with somebody. And I get these here and there, not very often, because I'm not really active at all. I don't really post. I just post my episodes and my articles. And I don't really have many connections on there at all. And I saw this invitation to connect, and I looked at it, and I immediately noticed the person, their vocation. And as soon as I saw it, I just had a flutter in my body, and I didn't allow myself to get excited. I just said, this feels like something. The invitation was from a person who is a coordinator. And I looked briefly at their profile and I got an idea of what they did. And I'm like, okay, cool. This is cool. Cool. I accepted an invitation. It's July 30th. Cool. The rest of the day went on, and honestly, I didn't really think about it again. I'm like, nothing happened. Or maybe, and then I said to myself, well, maybe it did. And that's all I said. I went to bed, got up the next day, and I went down to my phone again, plugged it in, looked at my social media, and on this same network or platform, there was a message from this new contact, this event coordinator. And I read the first line of the message and I just screamed. I screamed. And I just walked around my living room saying, oh no, this is it. This is happening. I was out of my mind. It was an invitation to speak at a conference in Miami, Florida. And I lost my mind. I'm like, oh my God. I was so out of my mind. I was laughing hysterically, walking around my living room by myself, just absolutely stunned that I'm receiving an invitation from a connection that I was invited to make the day before, which was July 30th. Now it's July 31st. And I just knew that this was it. And I was out of my mind, excited, and I couldn't contain myself. And it took the entire day for the energy to come down. So what happened is I'm thinking, okay, I have my very first speaking gig, because I advertise myself as a speaker, a writer, and a podcaster. If you look at my website or my social media, that's who I am. That's what I do. And this is my soul's work. This is the work I started to do once I started to awaken. This was part of my soul's purpose, is to document my life and what I've known and what I've learned. And that's what all my work is. My whole body of work is all about that. My podcast and my writing. So I am on this, I'm looking at the details, and it's This is my first speaking. I'm being invited to speak at a conference in Florida. And I'm like, oh my God, this is gonna be my first gig. I'm going to get my first speaking fee. I'm going to have this incredible experience. Oh my God, I was so excited. Where do I sign? And I talked to my daughter about it, who has an event business. And she's like, Mom, let me look at this. So, because she's worried about me now. I told her about the dream, and I'm like, remember 7:30? And I'm telling her all these things, and she's like, Mom, hold on, let me look at this. Let me look at this. So I I'm coming down a little bit in my energy, and she calls me later and she says, listen, this isn't what you think it is. This is it looks like a legitimate event and an events company, but it's not a paying gig. You don't get paid to speak. You have to pay to speak. And I'm like, oh, and I was so excited, and 7:30 invested. I didn't even look. And she's saying, I think you need to look at this a little closer. And I'm like, okay. So my energy drops completely. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what is this now? And then she's showing me what she's seeing on the website. And I'm like, okay, I see it now. This is going to cost me money to do. And I'm like, I'm not doing this. And I was laughing to myself. I'm like, well, this maybe isn't what I thought it was. And I'm like, but how am I supposed to reconcile this? And then, so I went along the evening. I told my daughter, I said, listen, I'm not going to make any moves. I had a meeting set up with this person the next day to talk about it. And I said, let me just go through this meeting, and then I'll talk to you about it, and we'll decide together whether I'm going to do this, because I trusted my daughter's opinion. She's my daughter. She's also one of my spirit guides. So I am going through the evening, and I'm looking through this more closely, and I'm just realizing this is not what I want. It's not what I thought it was. I'm not going to be paid to speak. They're not finding me. And it's funny, because at the same time I'm thinking all of this, I'm remembering a resonant memory of a tarot reading that said, your work will bring them in. That was the message, that your work will bring them in. So that's all I knew. So my work is postcards from a soul and her human, and that's what will bring them in. So I'm like, well, what is this then? I'm like, what? I don't want to do this. So I went through the evening, not sure what I would do. I'm sitting there thinking, well, I have to follow my heart. That's what this is all about. And I can't just do it because of 7:30. It has to be some logic here. I mean, I am a left brain person. I have a very powerful logical side. And I decided to just let it go. So within a few minutes, I'm sitting on my couch after I watch TV, and I'm getting ready to go to bed. And I just remembered 7:30, pull the trigger. And this thought process started in my body. I'm like, well, why would I receive a dream that told me to pull the trigger if I didn't need to pull a trigger, if I would have automatically done it? So my point is if this were a paying speaking gig, if I were being invited to speak as a professional or an authority or a thought leader at a conference because of my merit, I wouldn't have to pull the trigger. I would just do it. It would be a natural thing that any speaker would do. I wouldn't need encouragement to do it. So as I'm sitting there thinking about this, I get a grin across my face. And I said, that's why I had the dream. That's why I had the guidance to pull the trigger, because my brain wasn't going to. I was not going to do this. My logical body I'm not going to go pay to speak in an event. I don't need to do that. Or do I? And I started to just giggle. I'm like, oh my God, that's why this dream has been so powerful for 3.5 years. Because when this moment came, I was going to doubt whether or not I should do this. And beyond that doubt, in this fifth dimensional energy, I'm going to remember the resonation of the message, your work will draw them in, and the message, pull the trigger. And I knew in a moment that I had to do this. I have to do this. Okay. So the next morning comes. I have the meeting with this lady. She tells me everything I already know. It's on the website. It is basically somebody who is populating this conference. She doesn't have a real interest in what I'm going to be doing there. She's populating, an agent populating this event. And so I had a 15-minute meeting with her. I already knew what I was going to do. I had to pay. I had to choose the package I was going to do. And I'm like, I'm doing it. There's nothing in my body that's conflicted once I had that realization. So I went ahead and registered for it. And of course, as this is all happening, and I had to talk to my daughter, who was like, Mom, are you sure? I don't think this is something that you thought it was. And maybe think twice, maybe think another day about it. And I said to her, I said, listen, I just know that this is something I'm supposed to do. I don't know any more than that. All I know is that 7:30 pull the trigger was so powerful for a reason. And I knew that this was the year. I said it before. I know that this is the year that 7:30 is going to come of age. This energy in my body is too strong. This draw to the future is too powerful. I know that that's what this is. And she said, Mom, I trust that you know what you're doing. And she said, congratulations, and I wish you luck and all this stuff. So as I'm coming down or coming back into this energy of just understanding that this is something I'm meant to do, I have, and this isn't a realization because it's been in my resonance the whole time that I'm having this experience with this message, this invitation, is that something else happened recently that coincides with this, which is another reason why it was easy for me to pull the trigger. And it is a dream I talked about in the last episode called The Validation. And I think it was the last episode of the one before, one of them. I talked about the dream I had recently about Zac Efron. And if you heard the episode, I'll say Zac Efron, you'll remember. And real quickly, I'll recap. The dream was about me on a date with Zac Efron. Why it was Zac Efron, I have no idea. I tend to dream about celebrities. I don't know why either. But anyway, I'm on a date with him and we're in a club and I can't hear us talking. I'm watching us from a third party perspective. And all I can hear in the conversation is Zac saying to me, sitting across from him, I'm 58 years old. That's what he said. And I said, oh, I'm 62, just 62. And that was the main part of the dream. There was more to it, but I didn't describe the rest of it. It wasn't relevant to what I was saying. So I said, when I woke up, I said, oh, you're 52. John, my future twin flame, you're telling me your age because I've always wondered. I wonder how old he is. I was told he could be up to 12 years younger than me. So I always kind of wondered, I wonder how old you are. Well, this was my answer. He's 58 years old. Well, at least he will be when we meet. And I will be 62. Just 62. So I had this dream within the last month. And the dates of this conference in Florida are in October 21st and 22nd. And my birthday is in October. So, okay. So now I'm sitting here thinking, should I talk about this? Should I say what I know on this microphone? And I'm laughing at, this morning having my tea, I'm laughing at myself saying, Gina, what are you doing? Look at what's happened. The tarot message. Oh, and there's one more element to this that I didn't tell you because it wasn't resonant until this happened. This didn't come back in as a whisper in my body again until this happened. Was a memory or a resonation of another tarot message that was very repetitive that I got more than once when I viewed the tarot more than a year and a half ago. And this is one of the possible ways that we may meet in the physical world. And there were many, many scenarios. And this is why I really didn't talk about how we would meet because there was so many possibilities. It was possible that we would meet online through one of our social media platforms, that one of us would reach out to the other. It was also said that I would be on vacation and I would be in bed and I wouldn't want to go out and whoever's with me would want to go out and I would get out of bed to go out and I would meet him wherever we went that night. I would meet him on vacation. Or I would be at a retreat smoking mushrooms and meet him there. There were so many possibilities. And I believe the retreat is something that may happen. I won't go into that now. But anyway, one of the others that was repeated throughout the messages was that we would meet at an event or a conference and that one of us would be showcased there. And I'm like, okay. So I'm laughing to myself in just absolute delight at how clear this whole scenario is being set up for me. And I'm like, why do I know this when everything else has kind of been fragments of things? Why do I now know exactly what's going to happen? And I said, because I meant to share it. That's why. So this triple threat, this triad of events has all come to culminate in this moment. The dream I had about Zac Efron and our ages, and it wasn't just the ages, it was when I'm that age. I just turned 62. My birthday is October 6th. The event is October 21st and 22nd. I'm just 62. We may meet at a conference or an event where one of us is being showcased. I'm speaking on a podium. So it's kind of hard to deny that this may very well be where we meet in Miami, Florida, in October, when I'm just 62. It's really difficult to discount it or to say, nah, it's just in my head. And I'm laughing at myself with such delight that I don't have to doubt this. That I even said out loud to my soul tribe, I said, listen, guys, I believe here that you want me to know this, that I'm not meant to just have fragmented information anymore, that I'm meant to put these pieces together and to speak about it. And I thought, well, why would I do this? And I'm going to say this out loud, whether I was meant to or not. And I think whatever I say at this point, I'm meant to, is that I feel like I'm meant to talk about this before it happens. So when it does happen, and 7:30 already happened. That dream I had that I talked about tentatively at first, because what if it doesn't happen this year? Then I'm going to look silly. I don't care about any of that. But it did happen. So the fact that I'm talking about this now, that it resonates so strongly in my body to speak about it to you, is not an accident. It's part of what's meant to be. It's meant to show you, the people that I'm meant to help ignite, that this magical layer of our life exists just beyond the 3D matrix. That this magical source connection, this magical soul team support, where they're literally telling me what's going to happen in 80 days, around 80 days from here, from now, that I'm meant to share this so you believe in this magic. So you understand that it's real, that this fantasy that I've been describing for the last 3 years, that I've been going through, this incredible culmination and graduation of my spiritual body in this human realm, it's a fairy tale, but it's absolutely real. There are no smoke and mirrors here. There is only resonation. I only have access to this because my body vibrates now at the same frequency of this reality. That's it. That's manifestation. That's co-creation. Is two like energies coming together, and they're naturally attracted to each other. That's how it comes together. And I mentioned this before, and it's so beautiful to see it emerging and then playing out in real time. I get to witness this as it's happening, and so do you. I talked about how my body feels this energetic pull, how first it was a shift in dimension, and I described that in the article Resurrection of the Goddess, and in those podcast episodes that I did that came from that, stemmed from, or spawned from that article. The co-creation and the dimensional shift episodes, where I talked about this pull on my energy, and then I told you how it deepened to a cellular pull, and then how it deepened even further into a magnetism from my heart, which was the last episode, soulmate magnetism, or the one before the last one, sorry, where I talked about how this resonation has grabbed my heart, and how this bridge, this ethereal bridge, has been built or connected between us now. Our hearts are connected. It is magnetism. It is magnetic. I can feel it. It's an anticipation in my entire body of something that's coming soon. And now My God, this is so magnificent. And then I talked about how the last element of this transition into this new dimensional reality for me, into this new phase of my life, and this new phase of my mission where I'm meant to be in union with my twin flame, who is the other half of my soul, who we've had these two separate life experiences. So when we come together, we have this full bodied experience. I'm the idealist, the spiritualist. He's the materialist. He is the one who has material success. I'm the one who is ethereally connected. And we come together to teach each other what we know and to become this fully embodied couple. And in this full embodiment of our essences, our power, we create a light. And this light is love. And this love is what we are meant to disseminate across this world. Not just the two of us. There's many, many, many of us here. Star seeds. Angels are here. Extraterrestrials are here. They're in human form to help humanity. So the last thing I spoke about that needs to be moved into this new reality is the physical body. And I said that will come through an opportunity that comes out of nowhere, or an invitation, an encounter with somebody that seems random, or an act of good fortune. And this is my physical body being moved into this new reality, the invitation to speak at this conference. This is what is going to move me in physically into the gravity of this new reality. And it's so interesting because I was thinking about this morning, that one of the things that you're going to feel, and this is one of the videos that I'm serendipitously drawn to on YouTube that I don't follow or I'm not subscribed to, that tells me something that is important, that if you start to feel like the walls are closing in around you, that's your soul telling you it's time to move. And I'm thinking about this in my world, and I don't feel like the walls are closing in around me at all. But what I do feel, and this is extraordinary, I never realized how much I would feel what is happening in my body. I feel that as soon as I step out of this world, it will collapse behind me. It will cease to exist. That I will never be able to go back is what I mean by that. And this is a feeling that I had when I first realized that I had to leave my ex-husband before we were divorced. When I first realized it, I had a moment in the bathroom at my business, in my auction hall. I was standing at the sink washing my hands, and I felt suffocated. I felt like I was claustrophobic in the space of the entire universe. That's what it felt like. And as I went home that evening and I realized what I had to do and how my life was changing, I said out loud, I cannot ever go back to who I was. I can't ever go back to her. She's gone. And I knew that the world that I lived in before did not exist anymore for me. And now I understand why, because my dimensional frequency had risen to a point where it no longer resonated. So it felt alien to me, even though I lived in it for 58 years. That feeling so early on that I didn't belong there anymore, I couldn't go back. I knew I couldn't. Well, this same feeling is in my body now. Everything that I leave in this lifetime, relationships or situations or interests even. My God, I can go on and tell you another 20 minutes how my interests and my tolerances and preferences have changed just in the last couple of weeks. How once I move away from it or I leave it, it falls away. It's not accessible to me anymore because the frequency it exists on is in another dimension, quite literally. It's extraordinary. So I'm sitting there thinking about this and how I can feel this anticipation in my body so strongly. It feels like, and this is how I said it out loud this morning, just before I came up to record, like as soon as I step out of this world and into this new one, this world will dissolve. It will cease to exist. And the only thing remaining are my family. This whole matrix, this three-dimensional matrix that I'm still physically sitting in, but I am mentally, emotionally, and spiritually gone from. But my body, the physical element of this story, is still here because it has to be physically moved. The movers aren't here yet. They're coming on October 21st. Now, that's not 100% true. I'm going to come home after that conference, and I'm just trying to make it a point here. But as soon as this changes, as soon as I physically move into this new reality, the old reality collapses. The matrix collapses because it's no longer needed. So it's a virtual reality assimilation that the programming is no longer no longer oh my God, I don't know how to put this now. I went too far with this analogy. It's not the right it's 2.0 and I'm on 6.0. It doesn't compute anymore. It doesn't have the power to run in the 5D matrix. So it dies. It collapses. And that's what I've been feeling for since May, when I had this physical feeling of a dimensional shift in my body. And it keeps coming up in my mind that everything that I leave behind, everything that and it's even my diet, my preferences, and so many things have changed. I won't start a whole nother conversation about that, but I won't ever go back to it. It is just, I have changed so much at a molecular level that everything that used to resonate with my body no longer resonates. So it falls away. It collapses. The programming ends. And that's exactly what happens. And it's so clear to see from this broad cosmic perspective how this all works. So I never dreamed that I would feel this transition so strongly in my body, that I would trust what I know without failure. Now, again, I mentioned there's many different ways that we may meet. This is the one that resonates, and it resonates so much more strongly because of the dream and the foretelling that my work will bring them in, which it did. It was on a professional social network that this was that I was contacted through because I'm advertising what I do. Now, I don't know if this is the opportunity, quote unquote. I believe, and this is what I was telling my daughter, that this conference doesn't really mean anything. And forgive me, I don't mean to discount it or devalue it, but it is a means to another end. I'm meant to be in this place at this time. And whether I receive an opportunity from this experience or multiple opportunities, which turn into a opportunity that connects me to my twin flame, or if my twin flame is that opportunity. And once we meet and he's aware of all this, I'll tell you why I know that, why I would think that. But I can't tell you now because it's divulging something about him that I don't want to do because of his privacy. So there's many ways that we can meet, but this is the one that resonates. And, and it's funny, I keep catching myself qualifying it. I don't know anything, but I know this. And I guess we'll have to wait and see. But I believe I was meant to share this with you before it happened so you can believe. So you can see in real time. You can watch my story unfold, this fairy tale that I've been living that started in the haunted forest where I didn't know that I was a queen, or a goddess more accurately. I didn't know that I was Cinderella cleaning the fireplace of my wicked stepmother. I didn't understand who I was until I met my prince and I became a queen. It's not exactly like that, but you get the picture. This fairy tale is my life, and I'm sharing it with you for a reason. And I believe I'm sharing the details of these foretellings with you before they happen for a reason, so you can believe. Because I believe we are meant to awaken en masse. We are at a time in history, in cosmic history, where the Earth is meant to ascend in a way she hasn't in probably since the continental shift, where she is meant to ascend in a dramatic and aggressive way. And we, as her babies, all species of life on this planet, which humans are only one of them, are meant to evolve with her, to ascend with her. And I believe that because we are meant to ascend more quickly than ever in our history, in all histories, that the ones of us that are here to help are doing things that put that in the express lane, that put it on crack so it happens a lot faster. And I had to get over my own ego to do this. And I don't think I could have gotten over that in the third dimension. Again, the process I had to go through to get here, to get into this fifth dimensional energy. So I'm not anything special at all. I want to make that clear. I just can see where I am and why I'm here. And I think that I'm meant to help you see it too, that we're all meant to have this mass awakening. And if you listen to this podcast, and especially to the end, you can bet that you're a part of that. Because this time for ascension, that's the time that we're in. The time of the Aquarian era, which is time for unity and coming together, and for the feminine divine to be the governing energy over the divine masculine, which is not a bad thing. It's just become toxic. We're all divine feminine and masculine. Don't mistake man, woman. That's not what I'm talking about. And who knows, maybe we'll have our first female president here in the United States as a kickoff to this new energy, this new divine feminine. We'll see. But the point is that I have come to terms with, and I have embraced, and now with intention, I can carry out this role of the igniter, of the wounded healer, of the starseed here on a mission. And I can tell you who I am, what I'm going through, and what I feel, because that's what I'm meant to do. So, oh my God, this is so much fun. And I'm having so much fun. I can't even tell you. This is so fun. I feel like I'm in the stands in a box seat at the championship, and I know who's going to win. And I have all my money on that team. It's just so crazy how amazing this feels. And I'm going to get the opportunity to speak at this conference, which I didn't mean to minimize at all. I just see it as a part of a bigger picture unfolding. And I don't know what it's going to mean in the long run, but I'm going to go do the best job that I can. It'll be my very first professional speaking engagement. I'm very excited about that, and I'll share that with you as well. But I just wanted to share this story. I wanted to share this extraordinary 7:30 pull the trigger, and all of the surrounding guidance that I've received, and the resonating messages that have come back up to help me understand and embrace what's happening, and to share that with you. So as always, I appreciate you listening more than I could ever tell you. I hope you have a magical day. And I hope you can smell the magic in the air, because it's in every serendipity. And I thank you for joining me as always. And I will do my best to keep you updated on what unfolds for me. And I hope you have an incredible day.